Hey, my name is Jordan, and I wanted to talk about the land expropriation in South Africa um, from an Australian law perspective. And I know that some of you I don't know, and you'll be like, oh, Jordan, you're wildly unqualified to talk about the land expropriation in South Africa from an Australian law perspective. I'd be like, look, you're right. Except I think I'm like a little bit qualified because I was born in Cape Town. My dad was born in Johannesburg. My mum was born in Durban. We're first generation immigrants to Australia. I'm a South African citizen and an Australian citizen. If I wanted to run for Australian Parliament, I would have to relinquish my South African citizenship. I'm also in my final year of a law and global studies degree here in Australia. So I believe I'm like somewhat qualified to talk about the law in Australia and apply it to South Africa, even though obviously that's not how the law works. I've got the trusty Australian property law. I don't know if you can see that, third edition by Samantha Hepburn, which is an excellent textbook. And I was going to talk about indefeasibility of title and deferred indefeasibility because I believe it's extremely relevant to this kind of situation. So you may not know, but the South African Parliament has just voted, what did they vote? 241 to 83 to amend the South African Constitution. And that is specifically Article 25 or Section 25, subsection 1, which says no one may be deprived of property except in terms of law of general application, and no law may permit arbitrary deprivation of property. Sounds like a great section. But effectively what they want to do is take away farmland from white South Africans and give it to black South Africans. Which is that you may be like, well, that seems a bit racist, but it comes from the era of apartheid where land was confiscated from black South Africans simply for the colour of their skin, and effectively what's happened is they want to do that back, which in kind of, if the time hadn't lapsed, so much time hadn't lapsed since then that seems like a fair concept. However, this is where I wanted to talk about Australian law. Also, I just wanted to say that amending this section of the Constitution is also in violation of Article 17 of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, which says, Article 17, everyone has the right to own property alone as well as in association with others, and no one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his property. Obviously, that means his or her property. So in Australia, in New South Wales specifically, which is my state, under the, what is it, the Real Property Act, I think, 1900. Yeah, Real Property Act 1900. Pretty much what happens as soon as you register land, so you purchase land, you have to register it. As soon as you register that land, your name's on the register, that land's yours. And you have this indefeasibility of title, which means that your title, as soon as it's on that register, is yours. No one can challenge that. That's yours. They kind of realized a few years later that, oh, look, that's not so great because what if fraud was involved or whatever, and someone tricked someone into signing the register and all that kind of stuff. So what we've kind of stuck with now is this concept of deferred indefeasibility of title, which is where if you purchase land and register that land and there's fraud involved or whatever, it means you have a period where that your title can be challenged. But once you sell that property to the next person in good faith, and there's no fraud or anything involved in that transfer, then that second person has immediate indefeasibility of title. And that's to protect, for example, say I steal land from someone and put my name on it, and then I sell that land in good faith to a person who doesn't know anything about the stolen land or anything about that and is completely unrelated to me in any way whatsoever. They buy that land. That's to stop the original person being like, look, you stole this land. Because they didn't steal the land. In all kind of accounts of the law, they've purchased the land, they paid their consideration, they did all the steps, they had no idea. So that's like, if someone 6 steps down the line goes like, oh look, this guy 100 years ago took this from me, I'm going to take that back from you who've paid money, who've done all this kind of stuff, blah 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 blah. That's to protect that from happening. So if we applied that now, what is happening in South Africa, what they want to do in South Africa is completely illegal. And it's that concept of, well, what if this person's this is like the 6th generation of person who's bought this land. They've done it in good faith. They had no idea it was stolen from someone in really unfortunate circumstances. What's happening in South Africa is they want to expropriate that land, which means take the land without compensation, so no money from this person who may or may not have. They may be the first person who stole it from a black farmer, and in that case, give the land back. That's not okay. But this might be the 6th generation of someone who's purchased from people that they've never even met before. And they're being told, because of the colour of their skin, to give that land back to a black person. And like, that doesn't sit right with me. I know I'm a white person, but like, I don't believe that precludes me from having an opinion just for the colour of my skin. And it's kind of scary that that's a controversial opinion. Yeah, so that's what the South African government wants to do, and I think that's a bit wrong. And I think that there should be just compensation if you want to right the wrongs. Like, for example, the Armenian genocide. Turkey killed a whole bunch of Armenians. Imagine if they're like, look, in order to make reparations for the Armenian genocide, we're going to kill a whole bunch of Turkish people. That's not how that works. Like, you've got to fix what happened. Obviously, you can never come back to square, but you're going to have to do the right thing, and you're going to have to keep slowly. It's going to take time, but you're going to have to fix it. I think this is an impatient way of going about making reparations. I don't believe you should be discriminated against based on the colour of your skin. I know that did happen during apartheid, and I believe that to be wrong. Obviously, just as everyone should. But yeah, so that's my perspective. If you want, feel free to have a read of Chapter 11 of Australian Property Law 3rd edition by Samantha Hepburn. It's a really great book with some really good cases, and yeah, those are my opinions, those are my thoughts. Feel free to disagree with me. I believe everyone should have the opportunity to disagree with someone, and yeah, sorry if this is a controversial opinion, but it's my opinion. Thanks for listening. See you later.